But what I've tried to employ the female members of my family, some of who you all met and talked to and what have you, is that, again, and this is what I've done this all my life, let's make sure we don't do anything to provoke wrong actions. Domestic violence or you know, or whatever the case may be, with men putting their hands on women is obviously a very real issue in our society. And I think that just talking about what guys shouldn't do, we got to also make sure that you can do your part to do whatever you can do to try to make sure it doesn't happen. But at the same time, we also have to make sure that we learn as much as we can about elements of provocation. Not that there's real provocation, but the elements of provocation, you got to make sure that you address it, because what we've got to do is do what we can to try to prevent the situation from happening in any way. And I don't think that's broached enough, is all I'm saying.
Remember this piece of commentary from ESPN's Stephen A. Smith?
Good morning. On Friday, speaking right here on First Take on the subject of domestic violence, I made what can only amount to the most egregious error of my career. I do sincerely apologize. As a man raised by the greatest mother in the world and 4 older sisters, I've religiously spoken out against domestic violence all of my life, particularly the victims of domestic abuse, and to my female family members and loved ones I've disappointed and who know I know better. You all deserved a better professional and, quite frankly, a better man last Friday, sitting on this very set in this very chair.
He was forced to apologize and ultimately would serve a suspension. Recently, he was asked about this by contributing writer and award-winning journalist Danyel Smith at Rolling Stone. Here was the question, and then the answer. You've said that there have been 3 times you feel like you made a misstep, said the journalist. One involved the Ray Rice intimate partner violence situation, when the then Ravens running back and his fiancée, Janae Palmer, were arrested after video was released of him knocking her out cold in an Atlantic City elevator. I bring this up to say that your reputation with regard to how you may or may not view women has not always been super top line. And here was Stephen A. Smith's response. Nobody's perfect. Everybody and their mother advises me don't revisit it. It's a no-win situation. To me, that's cowardice. I know what I said, and what I did was utter the word provoke. A former colleague at ESPN took it, ran with it, and it went ballistic on Twitter. The leadership at ESPN reacted to that. When the heat elevated, they said, we have to suspend you. And that's a blemish on my career I do not believe I deserve. So let's backtrack for a second and just address this piece by piece if we can.
We all have a ton of opinions. We have platforms if we want to share them. Certain things bother me more than others. And I just felt like in those instances, why not say something? Because it's almost as if when you all work for the same company and the loudest of the mouthpieces is sort of getting all the spotlight. In my mind, the idea that the rest of the world thinks that we condone those thoughts, or that no way, man. And not only that, but you're working with a ton of women and a ton of strong women. And so to have that be the sentiment that was kind of being amplified, like, no, I'm not here for that. And honestly, worst case scenario, what were they going to do? Suspend me too? Like, that's fine. I would have accepted it.
The employee he refuses to name is Michelle Beadle, seen right here on your screens. She would watch Stephen A's original commentary and tweet. So I was just forced to watch this morning's First Take. A, I'll never feel clean again. B, I'm now aware that I can provoke my own beating. I'm thinking about wearing a mini skirt this weekend. I'd hate to think what I'd be asking for by doing so. At Stephen A. Smith. #don't provoke. Violence isn't the victim's issue. It's the abuser's. To insinuate otherwise is irresponsible and disgusting. Walk away. I was in an abusive relationship once. I'm aware that men and women can both be the abuser. To spread a message that we not provoke is wrong. So to recap the first section, Michelle Beadle was very vulnerable in a time where a man like Stephen A. Smith went on national television on the #1 sports network in the country, and he said that folks like Michelle Beadle are responsible for their own beatings at the hands of someone that they trust or someone that they run into on the street. First off, disqualifying. How are you saying this? Why are you saying provoke? Like, beyond reason, that is not only grounds for suspension, but for some others, termination. Yeah. You know what the problem is with Michelle Beadle? She provoked it. That's her issue. I gotta tell women, don't make men mad, because you know how men get mad. You know what we'll do when we're mad. Insane stuff, dude. And then, when she tweeted about it, Smith basically said that she made a fuss. That's what got me in trouble, was Michelle Beadle making a fuss about my comments, not acknowledging how stupid they were in the first place. She made a fuss about it. That's why I got in trouble. That's why John Skipper suspended me. Should have been longer. A week. You got off. It was easy. The problem is, it's low. And revisiting these comments, maybe he should have passed on this question, because what it shows is that this man has learned absolutely nothing, nada, from his suspension. Sadly, he gave a better response years ago. The fury that I felt wasn't about the suspension. It was about the fact that I was associated with domestic violence when I've never put my hands on a woman in my life. You would Google me and I would be associated with domestic violence. And that's something I still haven't gotten over, to be quite honest with you. Another part that really disgusts me is his line of, well, I'm a father. I'm a father of 2 daughters, blah, blah, blah. How many times have we heard this to defend such things as we have had to revisit, because he did in that Rolling Stone interview once again? Why do so many men do this, man? Have we not learned anything at all? Yeah, the problem is women provoke men, but look, I'm a father, all right? I have daughters. What a cheap and cowardishly way to try and dance around just saying, yeah, you know what? I screwed up. My bad. My God. That's ESPN's highest paid employee right there, who, by the way, hosted Candace Owens, a Holocaust denier. So good for him. Good for him. And yet no one bats an eye. Haven't seen ESPN say anything. But Stephen A knows what he's doing when he does that. That's the issue. When he hosts the Byron Donalds, the Steve Bannons, the Bill O'Reillys. He knows. He knows that at some point, his time is going to be up and he's going to have to pivot. And what he is doing right now is laying the groundwork for eventually, when he is done at ESPN, to have an audience. He already has it. He just wants more. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. If you're going to bring someone like that on, you should probably check him, which he does not do.